Good morning, everybody. Here we are. We're live. It is Monday morning. It's the 27th, almost the end of May already. Ludicrous and freezing cold. My car said to me 2 degrees this morning when I was driving out of the house, which is not nice. You know, when there's ice on the top of it, that's not so nice. Anyway, we're alive. We're here. We're well. I hope your weekend was good. Let us know what you got up to. And we've got Sims standing in for James as producer this morning. We've got Flex here, so everything's fine. We're in good, safe hands. In fact, who knows? It may just work out extremely well. Huh? Oh, I think so. All right, and we have a guest here, Kurt Egelhof, who's an icon in the South African theatre and art scene. He's also been involved in so many projects that you may already know. Ghost in the Darkness, Last Victims, Zulu Love Letters, The Native Who Caused All the Trouble, Wind Prince, Perfume of the Cyclone. Like, these are impressive things. How are you? Nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure. Oh. And impressive is a subjective opinion.
Well, I'll tell you what is impressive is that you have directed, and I've always wanted to get under the hood of South African soap operas because they are by far the most popular genre of television in this country. And by far, I mean, nothing comes close. Game shows are like trailing behind it.
Yeah.
News, sport,
Yeah.
Sport, different thing because it's event-based, right?
Yeah.
Some sports shoot the lights out. Other ones, nobody cares.
Yeah.
But soap operas are like the mainstay.
Okay. So I think Isidingo was like the trendsetter in terms of soap operas as the first daily. No, not Igoli was the first daily at a certain point. But Isidingo took away the soapy aspect of these things and replaced it with a dramatic aspect. So it wasn't like 5-10 seconds on a reaction shot before we fade to black. It was dramatic. And so we labeled it daily drama.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you were involved in the capacity of?
Well,
with the soap operas?
In the capacity of creator.
Okay.
Yeah, there was 4 or 5 of us. Grey Hofmeyer put a team together.
Right.
And I was invited to be on that team. So where did Grey Hofmeyer get the momentum or the impetus to do this? I don't know if you're old enough to remember The Villages.
That was before
Okay.
me. But
Doesn't matter.
Tell everybody.
I was lucky to watch it on TV and later on work with some of those people. But The Villages was a weekly drama. When the SABC finally got themselves going in 76, they said, but we need some English drama because we have an English audience in this country as well. And somebody knew that Grey Hofmeyer had been a floor manager at the BBC, and that was good enough. So they turned to him and they said, write us a daily English drama. And he came up with The Villages. It was set on a mine. Okay, back in the day, it was exclusively a white community.
Well, that's how the country was, yeah.
And wonderful actors, man. Come on. Victor Melanie, Gordon Mulholland, Stuart Brown, all of those iconic people.
Right.
Yeah, and so when I came to Joburg, got involved in the blah and the blah and the blah blah in arts and culture, I got invited by Grey Hofmeyer because the SABC said, Grey, we want you to bring The Villages into the new South Africa.
Shit, so that was the genesis of Isidingo.
That's the genesis of Isidingo. Very few people know this. And I was privileged to sit down for other people with a blank page and say, what are we going to do here?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm amazed at the fact that these things last as long as they do. You've got to keep finding new angles, new stories.
Correct.
Is that difficult?
Well, let's just give the kudos.
Because this is the days before AI. You couldn't just say, generate me 6 scripts for the week,
So let's give the kudos to the writers of our country, the people who stayed up late to come up with the scripts. Once the concept was there, this is a new South African daily drama set on a mine. The writers were given, in horse racing, you say, give the horse its head. The writers were given their head, and they was go. I had to write a couple of scripts because it was, we had to build up the wardrobe, the closet of scripts quickly. So it went write. So I only wrote like four scripts with Neil McCarthy. And they took over and they created the drug that became Isidingo. They created the cliffhanger concept. Oh, pardon the pun, brother.
Yeah. No, but it's true. And actresses like Michelle Boertes, God rest her soul. She was phenomenal, right?
Oh, she was a powerhouse, man. And right from the beginning, we latched on quickly. You see, I had an acting career behind me of approximately 20 years before I got involved in Isidingo. So I spoke the vocabulary, I had the emotional vibrations of an actor.
Right.
And so when I was writing and getting involved and learning how to direct, as soon as I was given my head to go and direct, the actors were like, oh no, it's this actor guy. He's now the director. And we immediately bonded. And Michelle Boertes particularly, you know, if you've been an actor all your life, you understand vulnerability. And I'm just going to say it out clear here. All actors are extremely vulnerable people who put out a facade through the characters like, I'm cool. So Michelle saw that I respected her vulnerability. And so she took me into her confidence. And when I asked her to plumb to the depths, she plumbed to the depths for that Sherelle character. And rise to the height. She rose to the height. Wilson.
And I remember not being a soap opera fan, but watching her because she had such a... there was something gripping about whenever she came onto the screen.
Oh, man.
She's just evil, you know, and she could do that so damn well.
Yeah, well, look, she got those big eyes, or she had those big eyes, right? And when she looked at you with that cold stare as the character Sherelle, who was a chief villain, you know? I think even the character Pierre, her husband, played by Wilson Dunster, even that character was afraid of her up to a point until he lost his marbles as well and started drinking. And I directed that scene where the great Wilson Dunster lost his marbles, or the character Pierre. And I asked him to do things that nobody asked. I said, pour the drink, contemplate how this woman has really screwed you over. And when it's finished, throw this glass into the liquor cabinet. The art department were like, excuse me, what? You know how much money's inside there? I said, you know how much money's here?
So you broke the rules and
I
broke the cabinet.
the rule and broke the cabinet. And even Wilson Dunster was like, Kurt, are you sure? I said, I'm sure. And I'd worked with him in Senior Smith in a previous life. I said, I'm sure, Wilson. Just do it, my man. And so one take, Jake, yeah? You know, got all the cameramen sorted, lekker, because you must cover it on every angle, plus the close-up on the liquor cabinet. And he did the thing, man. And I got tearful up there in the control room because he started crying at the character's helplessness for this domineering woman called Sherelle de Villiers.
Yes.
It was lovely stuff. That's why it wasn't a soap, my man.
I'm just amazed at how the people of this country respond to that stuff, because you've worked on Isidingo, but you've also worked on Scandal, Backstage.
Okay, cool. Can I put the linear progression of
I want
time?
to hear this stuff. And by the way, there's some comments coming in too. You can join us on the YouTube and hop on there. And there are a couple of people saying that they saw The Villagers and they used to love it.
Sure.
That's a long time ago.
So you see the continuity of consciousness.
Sure.
And that's a good thing, I think, because it shows continuity in the society. And when you got continuity in the society, people feel safe because they know the past. Otherwise, they start like, where did this thing come from? What did this? Cognitive
out
dissonance.
of the blue.
Cognitive dissonance. I'm not getting involved in this. I don't know diddly squat about this, where it comes from. So Scandal and Backstage went in this linear progression. I had been nominated for 2 years in a row as a director for Isidingo, the only single solo director 2 years in a row. The other nominees were the team of directors for Isidingo. So I was already 2 out of 3. And the team of directors for Generations. Yeah, for 2 years. And obviously, I think it was just too much of an insult to say to the team of both directors, this individual director did better work than you. I'm still come back to Scandal and Backstage. Let me not slip.
How do you describe the boss of or the job of director to people? Because it's a very peculiar role, actually.
100%.
Like you're actually in charge of the whole set. You're
Correct.
in charge of all the actors. You got to get something in the box and have something recorded that's perfect to use that the editors can do something with. But sometimes it gets a little untidy.
Well, I like to replace the phrase "in charge of" with "responsible for."
Okay.
Yeah, right. You are responsible for this.
Okay.
And if you think of a budget of upwards of 30 million rand per annum, you know, you got to be very responsible. So what does this job entail? We'll come back to Backstage and Scandal because it's easy to forget these things. The job entails, first, you need to know the craft. And having been in front of the camera in a multi-camera studio environment as an actor, I would watch because I never had a lot of dialogue. I was the barman in the back, only having a line or two. Hey, as lekker to be two-tone. Kind of cliches.
Is that what you had to do?
Yeah, no. I'm not going to say who wrote it. But anyway, it was called Senior Smith, and there it was.
Okay.
So I had a lot of time to watch how the cameras operate. So when my turn came, and Grace said, okay, you're going to progress from writing and creating the first, go and train on Joburg Blues. I don't know if you remember that. And I got an opportunity to multicam direct. What are you responsible for in the craft? An average of 3 cameras at a time, a whole crew in the control room, cutting according to your camera script. So you get given the script, and next to the camera, next to the script, you make your pencil marks, very linear, nice, straight lines. You describe the shot, medium close-up, over shoulder, favoring Sherelle. So the cameraman can read that. You need to learn that vocabulary, right? Sure. And there's, in the beginning, you want to put 100 shots on one page. Viewers going to be like, and you learn to make only 4, 5, 6 cuts in a whole page of dialogue. People call it TikTok. I hate the word TikTok because go TikTok, TikTok. This character.
Don't worry, I hate TikTok too.
No,
for
but not
different
that
reasons.
TikTok.
I know.
Forgive me. I don't mean to diss 100 million people around the world.
I don't mind.
And so what you're responsible for, once you know the craft and the management of the hardware, and the Indian producers and directors call people software. You need to manage the software. These are the human beings. You need to gain their trust, because what is the fundamental root of being a director? You must direct. You can't be in the wrong jungle and giving directions. Cut this bush this way, this way, and be in the wrong jungle. You got to know you're in the right jungle, and you got to carve the path that the people trust, and they look, and they just see 1 or 2 episodes on the screen. They go like, this guy knows what he's doing. And they come back the next week and they commit to you more. And you got to appreciate that. You got to take that and uplift them, because they've uplifted you.
So a couple of people here, when the people talking about, Seven Delan, I was indoctrinated by Seven Delan. Now I'm out of that mindset, says Bitcoin But. Someone's asking, where's Leanne? She had an op, and she will be back next Monday.
Bless her. I hope she gets
we
well.
don't have her at the moment. Thank you, Goon. And then let's just see here. We've got The Village. Is The Village not an M. Night Shyamalan?
Oh, no, that's an American
movie.
We just call him Mr. Knight.
Right.
That's an American movie, The Village. It's set in a kind of Quaker.
Yeah, I remember that. I watched it.
The
Villagers is what you're talking about.
Villagers, hello.
I can't believe it's Monday again, says Basitsana. Well, that's how it works. Sunday leads to Monday,
Yes, indeed.
I hope I'll have power later today, because they've supposedly been fixing this thing.
Right, so
for the last week, I have had no hot water. So, I go to the gym to shower, but yes, you take little things for granted. Now, I know I could survive like this for a long time because I've got water, but it's not hot water. And I've got a little bit of electricity because I've got solar. So I'm already in a better position than most people, and I shouldn't complain too much.
Correct, 100%.
But my God, let me tell you, you get up in the morning and you have to hop in a cold shower, or you have to wash your face or shave or any of those things. Yes.
If you want any reassurance about that condition, just think back to when your mom was telling you how to suck it up when you were a little kid.
Yes.
And it's the same value system that she gave you that you need now to survive. No electricity, no water.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, let's go back to Backstage and Scandal, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I'm amazed at the fact that there's this broad range of different soap operas. They all appeal to different audiences for different reasons.
Absolutely correct.
But we have no shortage of varieties of kind of angle and age and device.
It was so amazing about Isidingo. It was a cutter through the cake of South Africa. If you cut through a cake, you check the layers. So it defied apartheid consciousness by saying these people don't exist separately from each other in silos. Yeah. This is a mind community. They exist because they exist together. So Isidingo explored that dynamic. And I think that created the mass appeal that very few soapies were able to achieve, because the majority of them got stuck in the silos of cultural exclusivity,
For sure. So what was the aim for a show like Backstage?
Right. So there we are. Fame from America.
Right.
I'm going to make it forever.
No,
that one, right?
Okay.
So a very wise decision by Mfundi Wundler, who the owner of
He was a genius.
Generations. He just said, I'm going to come up with a South African concept. He pitched it,
Right.
they went for it, and there it was. But this is how I got into Backstage now. Mfundi and Gray were old khabas. I think that's a Joburg word.
It is.
They
Means
were-
friends.
Yeah, they were old friends, yeah.
Yeah.
And Mfundi said, Gray, help me out here. Cut and paste your team. And I was like one of the freshest dudes on the team, and I got cut and paste to Cape Town to create Backstage.
They did that in Cape Town, not in Joburg.
That's why it was so
Okay.
good.
Oh, okay. All right.
No,
it
it was
explains
about
a lot.
No, it was about the youth cultural uprising in terms of art schools. It was set in an art school, fame. And they mixed the cultures a lot as well, similar to Isidingo, because the same writers were, not the same writers, but similar writers were involved. And it appealed to the youth because it was a youth-driven thing. It had music, dancing, acting, and it had all the trauma of trying to stay alive at like 19 years old up to 25 years old. It was fabulous. So that's how Backstage was born. That's the DNA behind it. And Mfundi just said, you guys do it. So we went like a team, cut and paste, and did that. And then Scandal transpired. I'll come back to Backstage if you wish, with pleasure. Scandal transpired once these genres had become rooted in South Africa. Somebody said, hey, let's put one in a journalist office, in the a news desk. And so people who were ex-journalists and ex-news desk people who were now running the ETV, they called for that shot, and Scandal was created. I didn't create Scandal. I was just roped in to help it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I started thinking I'm becoming a little bit of a hitman here in the soapy world, a little bit of an assassin. When there's trouble, they call Kurt.
But how do you measure the success of these things? How do the channels, the commissioning editors, the producers, the creators, how do they figure out that a show is tremendous runaway success?
So there's an extremely detailed data generating function called ARs.
yeah.
Right.
Audience ratings.
Correct.
Yeah.
But before you get there, you need to know what your target market is. Who are you targeting? And this is also highly detailed and structured. LSM, I don't know, I've forgotten it because I've been out of that world for so long now. LSM 12, I think, is
The lifestyle standard measures.
Yes, sir.
They still use this shit.
I'm
They
not,
do.
I'm not surprised. Look, Gray always said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, but I would have always said that the way to tell is to use those ratings, obviously, but they do change from time to time,
100%.
depending on all kinds of factors.
100%.
Also, the duration of a show, like how long has it been on?
Yeah,
Because Isidingo, for example,
20-something years. Even bless you. Bless you, my guy. Even generations, third time for luck. Even generations also ran like that. But in terms of how do you measure, you take those stats and you see what the people are talking about.
Yeah.
However they are expressing their opinions, whether it's in the newspapers or the digital world, and you let the writers take a chance. Now let's just get real here about taking a chance in South Africa.
yeah, what does that mean?
The first cultural boundary crossed was in Isidingo, where a black man and a white woman kissed on camera.
Da-da-da.
Shomla Dandala.
I know Hlomla Dandala.
Wow, he's a good dude, man.
Awesome guy.
Yeah, and what was her name? I've forgotten her name. She's a fantastic actress as well. Amato. I knew her dad. That's why I've forgotten her name. Amato. I'll get to it. Her character's name was Philippa and Derek Kenyati. And they were immediately like energized by each other, the characters, when they met. So it was already like, we can see the airways going. And the writers
Right.
took that chance. And they went all the way. And guess who got to direct that episode, that
You.
scene? Moi.
How fantastic.
It was fantastic. I got goose flesh when I watched them doing the thing I asked them to do. And I'm a bit old school, wrong side of 60-something.
Yeah.
So I went down where my parents would have gone. I said, get on your knees, my dude. Kneel down in front of this woman and ask her to be your lover. We're not asking to get married right this minute, but just as if it's a marriage proposal. And he was like, but trust. Remember we spoke about it a little
of
earlier.
course.
He trusted my call. He went for it. And they were fantastic.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
One of my friends got a very small role in Isidingo, says Hamin. We were super excited and all got together to watch the episode. They cut all the parts where she was speaking. Luckily, she laughed with us. How's that?
This happens. Tell that person I've been a victim of that too. You know, I went to like 10 calls on a movie, and then I went to watch the movie, and I dipped down for the popcorn, looked up, and I was gone. You know, in the movie house. So there's a duration issue, always, and there's always a flow issue. Like, is the whole episode cutting together, hanging nicely? And sometimes, at no time are these decisions just arbitrary. Oh, I think I'll take that person out today.
Yeah.
They are carefully made decisions to try and keep the flow of
and
the
killing off a character, that's fun. Right?
Yes.
So if you do want to get rid of someone, you just figure out a really creative way of getting them to die.
Once they say they are organizing a bus trip to the Kruger Park, watch out. There's an en masse blood wedding coming from a blood wedding, a term from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
When you can see, hey, the writers are starting to lean towards this way. If you're the actor, they're starting to lead this towards this way. When I was producing for supervisor producer for Generations, I was getting this information from the writing department, and I'd call actors in and say, hey, they're talking like this about you there. Up your game.
Really?
Yeah.
That's how you can pick it up. So in hierarchy, because I think this is often how people think of these things, because you imagine the actors are the most important, but they're not.
They're not.
And
They're not.
You've just pointed out that the lowly writers can hold the balls of those actors in their hands.
The writers are the gods of that thing.
Yeah.
Let's think of the actors as the nose of the train, the one that hits the wind. You know, as this train is going. Think of a steam train, it's a nice image. But this thing that's going underneath, making the wheels turn, that's the people behind the scenes. And the editing, so important.
Says Tracy, that episode where Sherelle killed off Barker's son, who was also her scallopy. Yes, like TV gold.
Cool.
Yeah.
So can I just answer my dear listener there? I had left already by the time Barker Haynes came on board.
Okay.
Because I got cut and paste to Backstage.
Right. Okay.
And Isidingo took a whole new move. However, I came back to Joburg one time and I was shopping in the Checkers there. And Michelle Botas came up to me. Hello, darling. A long time no see. And I'd already been living in Cape Town for like 10 years. And we had a long discussion, and she was telling me she had had enough and that she was definitely going to leave, because maybe 3 or 4 years earlier we had a private conversation where she said, I'm done with this.
Well, I can imagine it must get
hectic.
Yeah, but also get boring for them after a while, because the audience wants you to keep playing the same character. There's never really any development because they've got to keep her evil and straightforward, and she's a bad person.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually you just mine enough.
And I think what was different about the South African version of daily soap compared to Bold and Beautiful, Days of Life, blah, 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 I think in order to run for 40 years, you've got to grow with your audience, right?
Yeah.
And South Africa, very difficult culture to grow with your audience.
Yeah.
Because the values are just changing. And these are ever-changing times. The values are just shifting all the time. And the writers are battling to stay abreast of what's current and what's attractive. Whereas Days of Our Lives and then those people, they built their studio sets in their homes. Their houses looked exactly like their studio sets. And so they were addicted. And so... yeah, they changed.
Well, here's an interesting one, too, from Sade, who says, we all know it was Stefano from Days of Our Lives. He's always behind everything. So,
you see,
people just loved this stuff because it was also something that you would do to just tune out from the world.
100%.
Right? It's like escapism.
So there's a theory about why people dig baddies and want to watch the baddies. And I picked this up during the days of Dallas, which we only had that.
J.R. Ewing was
J.R. Ewing was the eternal baddie. And somebody put the proposition forward that character, J.R., represented the maximum baddie you can have. Therefore, I'm not so bad in my stuff, in my shit. That's the real bad guy.
That's what it is. It's people want to feel, okay, I might be a terrible person, but I'm not as bad as that guy.
You nailed it. It's a vicarious shift.
Schadenfreude.
You got it.
Right.
And so that's why Stefano was so popular. We knew, hey, you messing with him now? In 3 episodes, he going to bust your balls. Yeah, in South Africa was slightly different because, we're
Papa G was the man in Isidingo, says Goon.
Georgie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we go. Listen to this. I've never watched a single episode of any South African soap. Not Igoli, not Muvango, not Isidingo, not Backstage, nothing.
Yeah.
Does that make me a bad South African, says Carl?
Tell that person I said with a capital no, big N-O, no. That doesn't got nothing to do with your values as a human being.
Okay.
You know? Yeah.
All right. Well, a couple of things that are in the news that people want to talk about.
Sure.
First of all, it turns out that after all the umming and ahhing and messing around, some kind of deal has been struck. Apparently, we're getting Starlink in South Africa.
That's bizarre. I just read this yesterday about this whole thing and the positioning.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go into that White House meeting if you don't mind. I don't want to go into that. But I do acknowledge that the Starlink door being open to South Africa is a major shift in our culture.
I saw an interview with Elon the other day where a journalist, I think it was in Qatar at some economic forum there, said to him, there are rules in South Africa. You have to have 30% black ownership. That's why you won't open Starlink there. And he said, yeah, but do you think that's right? And she wouldn't answer it because she said, I'm asking the questions. And he persisted to ask her, do you think that's right? And I think eventually it all just deteriorated. But I don't think he even likes the idea of being given special preferential treatment. So how did this happen then?
Can I just say that I think, in my personal opinion, it's still early days. If we think of that as a piece of theatre that happened there,
Sure.
and everyone got a different takeaway line from the performance, they go home with different things. And because we are still in early days of the ramifications of where that thing's going to go and what's going to happen, I think it's too premature to start making faster opinions. What's the word I'm looking for in English? Solid, concrete opinions about what happened and where's it going to go. Let's see how it evolves. When state capture happened or started happening, we didn't know.
Well, if you know more about this than we do, particularly the Starlink thing, I saw a headline. That's all I know. So I don't actually have any details. But there's way, way saucier stuff going on. So just in case you don't know, and our guest is Kurt Egelhof, by the way. He's here with us to just hang out this Monday morning.
Indeed.
We're talking about all kinds of crap. You do want to talk about some things like cognitive dissonance later.
Don't worry.
Which we'll get to.
And we'll talk about my books that I'm very busy reading.
Oh, excellent. All right. Yeah, we can find out all about that.
Of course.
MacG was axed from TV after a controversial comment about Minnie Dlamini. So TV channel Mzansi Magic has dropped Podcast and Chill with MacG for offensive comments. We all knew this was bound to happen at some point. I'm a friend of MacG's. I don't have any issues with him being vulgar and rude, but apparently he said terrible things about Minnie Dlamini. So the remarks which are seen as I know what you want. You want me to tell you what it is that he said. I'll get there in a second. The remarks which are seen as degrading and inappropriate sparked public backlash and led to the cancellation of the TV broadcast of the podcast, though it continues online. DSTV said that the decision reflects the commitment to upholding respectful and responsible content. I don't think that TV channels or people who work for them necessarily know what's decent and what isn't. Most of the time, they'll just do anything for ratings. The internet is not worse or better. It's just exactly the same. It's people holding up mirrors to themselves. I think you'd probably agree, Kurt.
I agree, but I have no opinion about the MacG discussion because I have no knowledge of it.
Okay, so apparently, and I didn't until this morning, but Simpiwe told me that what he did, is this during a roast or did he just say this? Did he just say this on the show?
Yeah, they were just talking about how her relationships went.
Okay, so apparently, like Minenhle Dlamini's been through like a lot of relationships, and they were saying, why is it not working out? And MacG said he reckons it's because her vagina stinks, which is a terrible thing to say. I mean, I think that's very rude and very mean, and poor Minnie, she doesn't deserve that. I've met Minnie Dlamini before. I didn't smell anything. I think she seems fine. But MacG said this, and now he cannot have his show on DSTV.
Yeah, that's below the belt, if you pardon the pun.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
Horrible.
You don't take those sort of issues with your opinions on those sort of issues must remain private opinions. You can't start going in public and talking about people's things, the shape of their nose,
yeah,
etc.
exactly. No, I think that we've just gone almost we've jumped the shark in
Hey,
some
ta-da.
ways, right?
Like
You
the
know what
Fonzie.
jump the
Yes,
shark is.
sir.
You love that.
I love that.
Because anyone who's produced anything for TV knows that you can sometimes go too far.
Yeah, we jumped the shark.
And
for
if you
sure.
go too far, then people stop taking you seriously.
Yeah.
And I think, there are a lot of South African celebrities who are always doing anything they can for attention. But there are other ones whose lives have moved on and who are not particularly interested in being part of that anymore. And in some ways, I don't know that Minnie Dlamini is at the attention-seeking stage anymore. I think she kind of lives her life, and having relationships is very hard, especially if you're a well-known person or you're successful. We all know that. It's not to say that it's easy for poor people who don't have anything going on or not famous, but someone like that in the public eye, it's tough.
So in a personality's career, you start from a zero and you get to the crossroad at some point.
Yeah.
The crossroad is celebrity this way, artist this way. What you gonna do?
Yeah, that's
And-
an interesting thing to decide.
And so a lot of people, because of the hustle, decided I need the exposure, I need the publicity. And they
Right.
create false controversy, fake things that they think will stimulate their public awareness. Me, I made a commitment when I got to that crossroad. I said, I live in a very broken society. I was raised by a very broken society. And I've had a moment of enlightenment. So I'm going to commit to uplifting this society in any way I can. And so all those potential hooks and traps to talk shit about other people,
Yeah.
I abandoned that. I didn't go down that road. And I wish more artists would take this responsibility and
Yeah.
uplift our nation like
I
this.
think there's a huge amount of say something controversial, get a whole lot of attention, and then
Ridiculous.
But then you have to keep it up, right?
Like we said, once you get the first check, you think you got a new
And
lifestyle.
and it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
So we were looking at some people in Hollywood, and we were talking about this P Diddy thing, which we'll get to in a moment or two with Hanan, because this is fascinating to me. The lengths that people will go to stay relevant, and a lot of pressure starts at an early stage of someone's career, and then they start almost becoming addicted to that pressure, to that need for attention.
I'm sure
Pathological.
that is a global syndrome that is tried and tested, and it's true what you just said. It becomes pathological. So with regard to the P Diddy situation, I was alerted to this by my adult kids.
Right.
That I'm,
Yeah.
just for the record, and I'm not bragging about this or trying to, I'm 66 years old. I'm verby.
You're not
with all
interested in
that
pop
stuff.
culture anymore.
I'm not,
Yeah.
sir.
I could barely be
So
asked.
I stepped away. But my children said like, Dad, check what's happening. Yeah. So I was forced to go and have a look.
How many kids you got?
3.
Okay.
41, 36, 31. That's
Sure.
their ages.
And what did you think of the story when you saw it?
I was not surprised. Another one of my big heroes, someone that I try and watch everything they do, is Cat Williams.
Yeah.
And when he did that interview,
Yes.
when they were drinking the brandy, I was like, I think it was late 23, and he said, 2024 gonna be the year of revelation. All the truth gonna come out. You're gonna see these people exposed. And it so happened. And I wasn't like drawn to this thing to get involved in it. I just said, I'm not surprised. I can totally understand how people are willing to sign a deal with the devil in order to advance their careers and bring their children into this deal. And that's not me. So I just walked away from it. I said, do what you got to do, guys. Live what you got to live. This is me here, and this is my responsibility.
Do you think it is a deal with the devil? Because fame and attention and celebrity are very, very attractive things to some people, and they can't help themselves. They will do whatever it takes to stay there.
So it's a deal with the devil because, bruh, and I'm going to say allegedly, but I think we all know what the truth is. If you are allegedly going to sign your children into this deal that you made in order to succeed.
What do you mean by that? I don't know what this is.
Yeah, come on, you know what I mean.
No, seriously,
The
so he...
children of Will Smith,
Oh, right, yeah, because people say that the children are brought into the business.
people are saying this. The children are
Right,
brought into,
okay.
and the terms on which they were brought in were hidden until they weren't. And then when they came out, the terms of these deals are like, what? You did that?
Yeah.
What? And what? So this is why I think it's a deal with the devil. I think all human life is sacred and should be uplifted as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree with you.
More so, your own flesh and blood, whether it's your child or your parent, if you got a 50-50 genetic thing going on with each other.
But then that's evil.
Thank you.
It's evil, and
Thank you.
We could still use words like good and evil.
Thank you.
I think that there are too many people in the world who are trying to get everyone else to use their terminology. So
Right.
you don't have to be a religious person.
Right.
You don't even have to be a spiritual person, but you know evil when you see it, and you know good when you see it.
And people use the changing terminologies as an affirmation of their value system. They want to hear you say the words that they now
Yeah.
believe in.
I mean, I think Hollywood is filled with evil people.
Cat Williams again.
Yeah.
He said, hey, dude, you can't change the word while we're still using it. Because suddenly trans became, you were no longer to say transition. This person is transitioning when they're changing a job from high school teacher to insurance salesperson. They're transitioning from one job to the other. Why are we using the word, nigga? And he says that a lot. You change the meaning of it. So today, what are these catchphrases that are triggering everybody? I'm on a spectrum. I got ADHD. And obsessive compulsive disorder.
Obsessive compulsive, yeah. People describe themselves in their biographies
They
with
jump
these
to say
things.
these things.
They can't wait to tell you what's mentally wrong with them.
They can't wait.
In inverted commas,
And I'm
you know?
saying, hey, when we grew up, we had all those things you're talking
Sure.
about. But they were straightened out in a different way. Not straightened out, but they were addressed in a different way. So to answer the thing about good and evil, please, let's get back to what evil used to mean. And not go like,
What does it mean to you?
what evil?
Yeah.
When you are...
Because, the problem is, and I've had this conversation with very, very smart people and with not so smart people, and the definition of it is where the problem starts. It's because we know what evil is if we encounter it. It gives you a certain vibe. It gives you a certain feeling. But the defining of it is a complicated thing. Because unless you draw on religious, spiritual,
Yeah.
moral, ethical
Cliches.
things, you're not going to be able to describe it properly.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to trick you or anything. I just want to know how you
No,
define
you're
it.
correct. It's a very difficult thing to describe because it suffers from objectivity and subjectivity.
Correct.
Yes, some people are able to look at it objective, and some people are so subjectively involved in it that they don't call it evil.
Well, for example, if I'm a not particularly emotional person and I see somebody saying mean things to another person, I might not describe that as evil. But someone who's much more sensitive would say that's evil.
That's where the
They're taking advantage of that person. They're making them feel horrible.
correct. That's where the subjectivity-objectivity ratio comes in.
Right.
But then you ask me for my definition, and I think of myself as Kurt the Brave, so I'm going to try and answer.
Let's go.
Okay. So I think evil is, or evil happens, when an individual decides that they have authority over all things made by, I'm not going to say God because, we're into a whole nother trick bag there. All things made by the life itself, right? When you claim dominion over those things and you exploit them to their detriment and to your advantage, that for me is evil.
I think it's a good definition.
I don't know.
It's as good as any of the best ones I've heard.
Okay.
Because it comes down to a person just giving up on doing the right thing
Correct.
and taking full advantage, abusing. There's no shame.
No
There's
shame.
right?
So by that definition that I was brave enough to offer, you can call pollution evil.
Yeah.
Because let's say an oil company is deliberately contaminating the water supply in the water table because it's lower expenses, higher profit margins. Depending on who you are, you can call that evil. But the dude on the top in the 1% who's got his Lamborghini stacked on each other, he go, no, that's business, man. That's business.
Yeah.
You see? So you got to rely on your gut. And if you look at something and look away, you say, okay, I'm afraid to look at evil. Or you go look at
Well,
it. In,
Bitcoin But says here, and he's talking to Simpiwe in the comment section, didn't Kanye West say he gave up his mother for fame? He did, huh? Yeah, and people do, you see, sacrificing things to evil is the same motivation as sacrificing things to good, except that you have a different result.
That's exactly right.
People who will sacrifice other people, their children, you mentioned earlier, happiness, their ability to feel shame, all of that stuff. They'll sacrifice that stuff up in
100%.
order to attain an evil goal.
Yeah, as soon as they cross that line, it's no longer an evil goal. It's my destiny to be that wealthy.
Yeah.
Or it's my destiny to be that powerful, to control the world X, Y, Z in this way,
Yeah.
that way. And you go like, if you just looked around and saw what's happening, the results of your actions, you realize, hey, anyway.
Slippery Pickle says, Real Network, what does your guest think of Tyler Perry in a dress? I don't know anything about this story.
Tyler Perry is a fantastic actor,
Yeah,
a fantastic creator.
sure.
And in our world, wearing a dress is just wearing wardrobe.
Yeah, in the art world, that stuff has been going on for a long time.
Hello.
The whole trance thing is not an issue in the art world.
Some
and
like
the
it
TV
hot.
world.
Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah,
I can't remember the year of production.
must have been the 50s.
Yeah, but it was a black and white, I think. Tony Curtis and who was Lemon? I think
Jack Lemmon.
Yeah. They were on a run from the mafia, just a little backstory. They were musicians who needed to pay bills and things. And so they dressed as women and went on a woman's jazz tour on a train. Hilarious comedy. Wonderful, but a great story. So I've come to learn that putting on whatever you put on is just you presenting a character. It's not you.
Judas says in the comments, Let's Talk Man, our show here on the Real Network, covered the sensitive topic about MacG and Minnie D's controversial remarks, and were lessons to be learned there also. So go and watch on the Real Network. Yes, Judas, thank you.
Cool.
It's a very good episode, made me laugh, and it's interesting to listen to. They get into what could happen there for anybody.
Cool.
So you need to find out. Go and take a look. Let's just see what's here. Watching old P Diddy clips today just slaps differently. Yeah, because you knew what was really going on, right? And Ellen DeGeneres gets a mention here as well. I love the one on Ellen with the kids. Listen, bad shit this. The catch is that you are the devil, said Goon. That's the deal you make. You are the devil.
Yeah, I remember that wonderful story. I wish I could. I think maybe it's a Roald Dahl story. I wish I could remember it. I'll go look it up. Sorry. Where good and evil meet each other and they say, I only exist because you exist. So, yeah. I wish I could remember.
Yeah, I know which book you're talking about.
Anyway, let's not have dead air while we scratch our old brains to look for
All
the
right.
thing. Let's move on.
But there's a Roald Dahl movie out at the moment.
No. Tell me.
Yeah, so I heard about this a year ago, and then they finally went into production. It's a movie about the life of Roald Dahl. I can't remember who's in it. One of our listeners. Somebody will let me know.
Wow, cool.
But yeah, that would be fun to watch because he was a complicated person.
Yeah, and movies are no longer the thing, you know?
Yeah.
Television is the thing.
Right.
Internet.
Miniseries.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So a very brave effort by the producers to make a film in the first place, to make one on Roald Dahl, is even braver.
Yeah,
So
because a lot of people wouldn't know who he is.
Yes.
He's not like a
it's
football
not,
celebrity.
Yeah, it's not your average
Sure.
daily bunny chow consumption there.
This is interesting. ETV newscasters are excellent at following script. Zero critical thinking. Perfect puppets. Says Slippery Pickle. Yeah. Who do you rely on for news? Because so much of this stuff
Okay.
that we are expected to take as gospel, and in the old
Okay.
days we might have if it was said to us by an authoritative figure on TV. Now
Okay.
we look at the news and we're like, it could be fake.
So, yes, 100% correct. So, in response to that, I withdrew from watching news. Like, you can name, and I just committed to Al Jazeera for the picture.
Okay.
For the picture.
Okay.
Because Al Jazeera is an alternate, must be too early.
Alternative. Don't worry.
Alternate global source of news, right?
Sure.
So I watch there, and there's a lot of global news. And the rest I get from reading the news. So now I don't want to give a plug, but I read a very progressive daily digital news outlet. And I form my own opinions. I never reply, I never respond, because there's always a hatchet job going on in the comments.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah, always.
You don't want to do that.
No, but I really enjoy reading, I'm going to say it, Daily Maverick.
Okay.
I really enjoy reading that. And sometimes I'll click on all the stories and I'll get halfway through and go, this is a boring story.
Yeah, it's boring stories, but they're also stories that you can tell, especially the opinion stuff. I'm not
Yes.
that interested in
Yeah,
hearing
and you
from
can't do
journalists
this
anymore.
with news and say fast forward. You have to change the channel. Whereas if you with television news, whereas if you're reading, you can take a moment, process.
And go, I don't care about this.
Now this is boer my vuur maak plek. I'm not interested
There we go.
in this.
Yeah, move on.
Cheers. Yes.
Gareth, did you see your buddy Penuel brought out a book with him as Jesus or God on the cover? Bitcoin Boyd? I didn't, but I'm not surprised. He's always been talking about his religion of Penuelism, and I wish him luck with it. I don't know how well it's going to go down with everybody. I think there are a lot of people who think there was something blasphemous there. But you know what? Attention seeking is one of the things that Penuel has. So I hope it works out for him. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
The Devil's Advocate. Remember that movie? That was a
Fantastic
good
film.
example of how your life could change when you sign a contract with the devil himself.
Fantastic film.
Beautiful. That was
First of all,
Keanu
let's-
Reeves.
let-
No, Al Pacino.
No, let's
Al
give the
Pacino.
local lady the first credits.
Charlize.
Thank you.
Charlize.
And
Charlize Theron.
then Al Pacino, who's the
Oh yeah, because that's where he does the line where he's the devil, right? And he's standing at his desk.
and Keanu Reeves goes like, I got this job, man. I got
Right.
this job. We're
And
gonna
he
be
goes,
like a
vanity is my favorite sin. I love that.
Nailed
I
that.
love that.
You nailed it.
Al Pacino, I mean, at his best,
He's
was
beyond, eh?
unstoppable, right?
So in Marathon Man, yes, I think it was Marathon Man. He gets taken in by the American Nazis
Yes.
for interrogation, and they're drilling his teeth as a torture for him to tell the truth. And Laurence Olivier played the baddie dentist drilling the thing. So Laurence Olivier's line was, "Is it safe? Is it safe? Is what safe? We don't know." And he keeps drilling into the tooth like root canal vibes. And eventually he doesn't speak. So in order to look like this for the shoot, Al Pacino stayed awake for 3 days in order to look like he was freaked out by this. And when he came onto the set like this, and they said, "What's wrong, Al Pacino?" And he told them the story. Laurence Olivier said, "My dear boy, why don't you just try acting it?" We got a call here.
What's that? Oh, Dr. Hanan. I haven't seen him in a while. How fantastic, Dr. Hanan, to have you here. Now, we've got a couple of things to talk to the good doctor about. First of all, how are you, Doc?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, guys?
Nice to see you. And you notice that because James isn't here, shame, his grand died, so he's dealing with that. But Simpiwe got you on time for us, which is very, very nice.
That's Simpiwe.
I know. Isn't it great? Okay, so this is Dr. Hanan, Kurt. We talked to him.
Pleased to meet you, Doctor. How do you do?
We
Nice
get
to
hold of
meet
him.
you.
We get hold of him once a week because we're all nutcases, and he's here to help sort us out. So, all right, what I wanted to talk to you about today, and this came up as a result of something that's in the news at the moment. This whole P Diddy trial's underway, right? And we've heard disturbing accounts of all kinds of acts involving humiliation. This ex-girlfriend of his, allegedly he forced her to be intimate with other men while he watched. He would abuse her publicly and in private. From a psychological perspective, Doc, what drives a person to engage in or even enjoy, take pleasure from these kinds of degrading things? And how prevalent is it? How often does this happen?
Well, the underlying mechanism, the psychological foundation for people behaving this way is the acquisition of power. People like to feel in control, especially of the things that they naturally can't control, which is other people.
Right.
Once you can control other people really at will, then you feel incredibly powerful. You feel incredibly in control. You feel as though you can pretty much rule over things that you shouldn't rule over, which is, again, unpredictable things such as people. So when somebody has literally everything that they need, everything that they want, they can literally click their fingers and get whatever they desire, they start wanting to challenge themselves and acquire more and more power in actually more and more inappropriate ways. And P. Diddy could get whatever he wants, whenever he wants, except for humiliating people. And he's reached a point where he he could step really out of the realm of what's appropriate and control people through, his sexual kind of escapades and really embarrassing people in the way that he has, because that for him was a sign, well, look what I can do to other people with really zero consequences. Almost like, what are you going to do about it? In his case, it's kind of like the natural human reaction is, take step over a line, you extend what's normal for you, then you step over that line again, and before you know it, you're a million miles ahead of where you thought you would be, because you've taken a little bit more power, with no consequences, and eventually you get to the point where he has gotten to.
Is it a personality thing, or would anyone in a position of, complete power and authority and wealth and thumbing your nose at other people, would all of us turn into him? Or is it a personality thing, or is there something darker going on? Because ordinary people are sitting there thinking, I wonder if I would be treating my girlfriend like this if I were a famous rapper.
Yeah. So, Gareth, I heard a little bit of your conversation just before I logged on, and you were talking about evil. And I don't want to excuse evil. Evil is evil, is evil, is evil. And what he's done was sounds and looks like evil. And if it sounds like a duck and it looks like a duck, then it is a duck. And the question is, can you become evil, or you're born evil? Well, who knows? I mean, it's part of DNA, part of temperament, and certainly part of your upbringing. But again, if you give somebody so much power and they're able to take control with really zero consequences for what they're doing, even though it might look bad, but people are willing to accept it. And what ends up happening, you end up with the Emperor's New Clothes scenario, where you surround yourself with yes men, people that accept and acknowledge and enable your behavior, and you start treating people badly, and they tell you you're the king of the world, and you start continue treating bad people even worse, and they tell you you're still the king of the world, and you take a bit more and a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and eventually you end up acting, the way that he did.
Okay, so I still don't know if I've heard a satisfactory definition of evil. Kurt had a very good one earlier. But how would you define that? Because you might have even come across evil in your practice, where you're talking to someone, they think they're telling you something completely normal, and you go, whoa, hang on a second. This is not something I expected to hear. I know what evil is when I hear it. Do you have a definition?
So my standard for treating people is always with kindness. And the moment your intention doesn't matter the outcome, even though the outcome of course matters, but the moment the intention is to go out and hurt somebody, that for me is evil. And of course there are degrees of consequences for how people behave. You can have, let's call it, very low degree or low consequential outcomes, and you can have very high consequential outcomes where countries go to war and you really can hurt someone. So my standard is, what's your intention? And if your intention is to go out and hurt somebody, that for me is evil.
Bravo, Doctor. Bravo. Yeah. Well done. Well said. I couldn't agree with you more. Fantastic.
And you were also nodding your head when we were talking about the whole Diddy thing, because of the humiliation and the degrading thing.
Yeah, and just a bit of kudos to the good doctor there for juxtaposing the control and power with each other. I'd just like to bring in this good versus evil thing. If you put power and control together as one thing and you decide this is going to go for evil, then you get those outcomes. If you put power and control together and say, I'm going to send this for good, then your power and your control is an uplifter. So the thing he said about power and control, I'd like to just separate them a little bit because they're not mutually inclusive. Power can work for good and for evil. So if you have control, you can have control over yourself, over your situation, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You see, and you can have power to uplift people, and that's a good thing. It's when they start to get messed up together and the edges get blurred. And like the good doctor said, I can get away with this now without consequences.
Yeah.
I can get it. And the fermentation just gets deeper and deeper until there's no way back. You think you are the king of the world.
Yeah, you got anything to add to that, Doc?
Well, once you become a celebrity, people really want to touch you, want to hold you. Gareth, I've been to lunch with you where people naturally come up to you and they literally want to hug you because they know you. You've been on their screens forever, and they obviously know you more than you know them. And they want to hug you, and they want to talk to you, and they want to speak to you, and they want to get your opinion, and they want to get your perspective. You've been in those shoes. Now multiply that by 100,000 every single day for 20, 25, 30 years. And that's what these guys have. They can literally, in their minds, do no wrong. And you can really take advantage of somebody who's that vulnerable with you, who puts you on that pedestal. Because the moment somebody puts you on the pedestal, you can literally, at will, get them to pretty much do anything. And you extend the boundaries really with no consequences. And eventually you get to become really, really nasty and really evil, because now the intention is no longer on how do I do good and how much good can I do, but rather how can I control the person for my own benefit, for my own pleasure, at their expense. As a matter of fact, these narcissists don't even look at it in the sense that how do I inflict the damage, but rather what good does it do for me, irrespective of what it does to other people. They fall in love with their own image so much so that the other person doesn't actually exist. They don't see like a child. They actually revert back to being children. Children are unable to see the results or consequences of their behavior. That's why a child can have a tantrum in the middle of Woolworths and not worry about who's watching and how much it affects other people. And these adults that literally revert into children, they do not see how their actions, because they don't care how their actions affect other people. So they can literally at will make you do whatever they want at their pleasure without really worrying of how it affects the world around them.
Quickly, because we don't have a lot of time here, but I want to ask you about this Cassie, the girlfriend of Diddy. A lot of people break up with boyfriends and girlfriends and they go, he's such a narcissist. She's such a narcissist. They love using this word. And it's become like a catch-all term for everything that we don't like about somebody. But can we just have a little bit of clarity on narcissism? And can we just have a little bit of an explanation of how you ascertain where things might have gone in a narcissistic direction? And it doesn't apply everywhere. Let's be clear about that too, because I do think it's become so cliched and hackneyed now. Everybody says this person's a narcissist, and we don't even go back to the definition anymore.
Yeah. So we throw these titles around, which actually make a big difference. So how many people go, I'm depressed, or I'm anxious, or
all the time.
Maybe this person's a narcissist all the time, and it loses its meaning. So without going into the technical definition of a narcissist, don't call somebody a narcissist unless you have that relationship with them where you require them to look after your needs. And a narcissist is somebody that looks after themselves at no bearing and no real thought about how it impacts you. But not all relationships need to impact you or need to consider you. So if you have that kind of relationship where the other person needs to consider you, but they don't, that makes them a selfish person. And that you should negotiate. And if they're not prepared to negotiate, well, that relationship shouldn't exist. But if you have a relationship where you need to negotiate the other person looking after your own needs, and they do, well, that's what makes a good relationship. I always tell people compromise makes for a good relationship, where I'm looking after my needs as well as yours, and you're looking after your needs as well as mine. And narcissist, in inverted comma, is such a loaded word, but a narcissist or a selfish person that is looking after their needs without real consideration or compromise of yours.
Fantastic.
Okay, good. And not all relationships not all relationships are so important that you can start calling someone a narcissist because they're not fulfilling your needs.
Most relationships are not that important.
Who do you think you are, Like, what?
Completely.
I'm not your dad, your brother, your mom, your boyfriend. Just relax.
Ish.
Call me narcissist.
100%.
There's a lot of people who are listening to this right now going, yeah, that counts for me in my relationship.
Ish.
Anyway, thanks, Doc. That's
Yeah,
excellent stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right,
guys.
we'll catch up with you in a week.
See you then. Bye, guys.
Lovely.
Take care.
Dr.
Sure.
Hanan Bushkin. And some pretty good advice there.
Hey, on
and
the
definitions,
button.
man. You know,
On the
again,
button.
either words mean something, and the definition helps you to understand it, or people are using a word to manipulate.
Well, I think the answer is because we kept lowering the threshold of education. Let's just use the cliche.
Yeah?
That our understanding of the world becomes less because our studying of the world, education,
Yeah.
is diminishing.
Right.
And so people pick up these cliches and say, oh, if I use the word narcissist,
I'll sound clever, and I
Yeah.
can make this work for me.
yeah. And so there's like 100,000 words like that people just assimilate and redefine, interpret according to their own.
Well, you said it earlier,
standard.
and Dr. Hanan mentioned it again now. These people who call themselves anxious
Mm.
and depressed and obsessive compulsive, and, they've got bipolar disorder or whatever.
Yeah.
First of all, unless you've got a diagnosis, you can't be calling yourself those
That's
things.
right, because you're giving yourself a free hall pass to be a dick.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
You want immunity.
Thank you from
You-
dickism.
But you want the you remember in Survivor they had the immunity idol, which
That's
meant that people couldn't vote you off.
That's right.
So I think for a lot of people, online but in real life, they want that immunity idol so that they can't be voted off the island.
Yeah.
I have special powers.
Yeah.
These are the things that protect me. Now, you can't be mean to me.
That's
you can't
right.
not do things that
Yeah,
I
because
like.
I know what narcissism means, and I'm going to
Yeah.
accuse you of that. I know what this and means, and I got the. You're right, 100%.
And screw you.
Yeah,
You don't get that. Nobody gets immunity.
that's right, because we're all equal here. We all have the
That's
same level of
exactly it.
emotion when it comes to I need to be appreciated.
Right. So there's a funny video, and I wonder if Flex or Simpiwa can find it. The Brooklyn Bridge in New York, famous
Yeah.
Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah.
So some boat went under it with
Okay.
3 masts, and it was the boat was too big, and
Wow.
the bridge was too low.
Wow.
And so it snapped these masts like toothpicks.
Wow.
But I think it looks like a fairly expensive craft, so I think that would have cost a lot of money to fix.
Oh, for sure.
Don't know if anyone is injured, because that's obviously another worry.
Yeah.
But you just see these things snapping. See if you can find that picture for the next hour. That'll be quite cool.
Yeah.
And we'll get into a whole lot more. We've got Kurt Egelhof here with us. We're having fun on a Monday morning. I hope you had a good weekend. Tell us what you got up to and jump in on the comments. We want to know all about it. We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
This was somebody who cut up things for Muche, and he took my little dog and he.
You've seen the Queen's knickers and so many more. Make some love and make some noise and show some love for Kate Turkington in the building.
Phela mina ngiyinsizwa mina. Ngiyinsizwa.
Hello, Dumela, Sawabona, how's it? And welcome to another edition of the On the Bounce Show. After many entertaining matches across a variety of tournaments, we are down to the finals, the big kahunas, when it comes to football matches this season. 4 major finals, 8 big teams, all with hopes and dreams, and one special guest to bring it all together. It's ex-professional footballer Dane Clayt, joining the guys in studio to bring us up to speed on what to expect in the upcoming finals this month. Arsenal fans, perhaps catch up with us again next week. It's episode 48. It's trophy time. Let's get into it.
Morning, and a chilly, cold morning it is in Johannesburg. We're joined this morning by Kurt Egelhof, who is a South African TV man by training and reputation, and he's done some awesome stuff, including pretty much being behind the scenes on all of your favorite soap operas over the years.
Yeah.
Done some movies and lots of other stuff, and we're just talking some nonsense with him this morning because it is Monday, and we've got to start the week. And we got loads of things on the agenda. So very good to have you here, Kurt.
Thank you, my guy.
Yeah, thanks for coming to join us.
Thank you.
And you live in Cape Town now.
Correct.
So are you up here visiting? What's the story?
Okay, so here's the big moment in my life.
Oh.
I'm up here to promote my books. Well, to launch my books.
Very good. What books have you written?
I sat out of the culture for about 2-3 years, and I wrote 4 books one time.
Sure.
Yeah. The books are called, from the start, The Adventure Boys, Palace of Broken Dreams, Man Overboard, and here's the kicker, The Accidental Death of a Good Colored Man.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so are these autobiographical?
Well,
Is it a series?
I'm
What's
glad
the
you
story?
nailed it. Hey, you're nailing it. You don't need me here.
No, this
It
is
is a
amazing.
series because I track a single character from 16 years old to 60 years old in each of the books.
And it's you.
No.
Oh.
Because autobiographical it means I'm going to tell you my story.
Yeah.
Autobiographical fiction means I'm going to tell you a story that I experienced, know firsthand, because when you write,
Yeah.
you have to write about what you know. Therefore,
Sure.
I can't write rocket science novels. But with the fiction, you are allowed, and I allowed myself to build fiction around it so that can be the net that catches and brings people
But
into the
there's
core
nothing
story.
wrong. I mean, listen, I don't know. To me, the line is blurred.
It has to be.
between truth and fiction, because and believe me, I'm all about facts, and I think that
has
it
to
does
be.
matter that you tell the truth. But when you're telling a story, I listened to this amazing thing the other day. There was an expert in memory who was talking about what people your memory, by the way, my memory, everyone's memory, even people who have very good memory, they screw it up. We think we're telling the truth about an incident that happened a month ago. We don't remember shit.
Right.
And they've proven this time and time again. They'll take people to court and they'll say to them, describe the accident you were in.
Yes.
They'll describe something. It bears no resemblance to the affidavit they wrote the day after the accident.
Fair enough. So the thing that's going on here is...
All I wanted to say was, from point of view of whether it's autobiographical fiction or autobiography.
So if you're writing autobiography, you say, I did this, I did that, I did this, right? And the thing about a story is you have to accept that the story is always bigger than the storyteller.
Yeah.
This means whatever the storytellers experience in their own world, they need to have known more about the worlds around them, the rest of the world, to give those other points a platform inside the story so it's not just about them. Because we're not making documentaries here.
Yeah, of course.
We are making entertainment.
So what made you want to do this?
Well,
You said you took a break from the...
yeah, from the
culture.
TV guy. Yeah.
Sure.
Because, I have to go back a little further. At 33 years old, I sat down and wrote a movie script about what happened to me in real life. And I already embellished on it. And it was called A Mountain High Enough. But it's half my life ago, I wrote this movie script. But I could never get it sold, but I refused to give up on the story. So I took that story, put it at the center, the story, not the script of the film script, and I started creating those characters that I lived with and experienced. And a month ago, I went abroad, and I bumped into one of those characters in real life who had bought the thing online already, the story. And he wept. He wept. He said, Kurt, this is so amazing. He's about 10, 15 years older than me.
Yeah?
This is so amazing, man. And when I come back to South Africa, I want all 4 copies signed personally. And he only read the first one, The Adventure Boys, because he was one of the instructors that managed the thing that happened to the Adventure Boys, climbing a mountain and experiencing death at the top of the mountain. That happened. People died. In 1976, people died on a mountain, and I was there. I held the dead man.
What happened?
We got caught by hypothermia.
But were you mountaineering?
Yes.
Is that what you were doing?
Yes, so it's a course called character training through adventure.
Which mountains?
Mount Lebanon between between Franshoek and Grabouw.
Okay.
It's the highest mountain peak in the Western Cape, could be the highest mountain peak in South Africa, Mount Lebanon.
Okay.
Prior to that, they were running these courses all through the past.
And you were how old?
17.
Okay, so there were a bunch of you on this
Standard
mountain
9.
and you saw a guy die.
Never saw him. I held him while he died.
What happened?
So we spent 3 weeks training to get fit to handle this thing.
Yeah.
And we went on a 1-day walk and a 2-day walk, and then we went on a 3-day walk. The 3-day walk was for the first time reversed. Instead of walking from Grabouw to Franshoek, we walked from Franshoek to Grabouw.
Okay.
And so it was virgin territory for all the past experiences. And no one saw the cold front coming. And when we were 1 day up there, that thing just burst on us. The sponge just dropped onto the mountain.
Was it snow?
Rain.
Rain.
I was lying in my tent there. The tent's doing this. And it sounded like a train, like we're camped in a train yard.
Yeah.
That's how the wind sounded coming around the peaks. Like, so it was hectic. And there wasn't only one death. I think there was 3. And the person who died in my arms, who opened up my eyes to my own mortality, and I'm really grateful to him for doing that, that his final act of death was like an awakening for me. He was the fitness instructor.
But Kurt, that's a hard thing to go through at 17.
Tell me about it. You carry it for life, so you write a book later.
Well, I mean, you talk about carry it for life, but what do? You leave the bodies up there and then someone comes in? You had to take them back.
We brought them down. Fortunately, they had the tenacity or the foresight to separate. We were 50 human beings up there.
Wow.
To separate the living 50 or 47 from the dead 3. So they transported the dead 3 differently. But we slept in the same forester's hut before the rescuers could come fetch us with the dead bodies. One dead body was found. The guy they had huddled together in a sort of little overhang to keep warm. It was dark now. And the one guy just froze to death. So when they found him, he had the rigor mortis like this.
Oh, my God. You can't stretch him out.
No, you can't. And we were like 17 watching this hammock. One guy carrying here, one guy carrying here, and the body weight in the middle being brought into the room. Usually expect a corpse to be on a stretcher, right?
Yeah.
Normal. This thing was like they're carrying a hammock and this oak's dead in a ball there. And he was one of us. He was one of our guys.
That's horrific.
Well, let's just say it's character building. It was terrible for the families. It was very painful for them to accept that they had sent their sons there to die. And it made an impact on me when I sat down at 33 years old and wrote that script. So it happened to me when I was 17. So half my life prior, I'm 33, I sat down 34 and I wrote and I wept, man. I had a catharsis. I had to put a towel on my lap and carry on writing this movie script because it all just came back. And then the society said, yeah, very nice, thank you. Lovely movie about boys in the mountains. And now next. I was like, okay, nobody cares. Right, I'm going to care more. So I wrote a book. And now the book is for sale. And I'm launching it this week in Johannesburg on Thursday at Theatre on the Square.
Magic.
Thank you.
And can people just pitch up or do they need tickets?
Pitch up. There's no gate fee.
Come and meet Kurt and you can get
Yeah,
his
I might
books.
run out of snacks and wine, but
they're
pitch
4
up.
books, right?
4
I
books.
like that's exciting because people could get into the first one and know there's still 3 to go. And
Yes.
yeah,
And
that's the whole reason you watch a TV series.
So because of my television experience, I said, let me write these books as a serial, or as a series.
Oh, nice.
So I kind of combined my experience of life, of my professional experience, to go, well, if nobody cares about this, I'm going to make a TV series myself about this, and that will be my next challenge.
So a couple of things here. First of all, Super Megalal says Mafadi is the highest peak in South Africa. That's in the Drakensberg. Montel sources.
Thank you very much for the fact check. I think my point of departure was highest point in the Western Cape.
Yeah. And I've only climbed Sentinel Peak, says Slippery Pickle, but that one sounds more dangerous. I want to climb it.
Now, Sentinel Peak is in Hout Bay. Is that the one?
I think that's the
Overlooking the Hout Bay Harbour.
That's it.
I don't know much about that. I just know that there's a poor community that lives underneath it. But hey, go ahead, be our guest. Climb Mount Lebanon.
It's if you're not trained in this stuff, and I don't know if you still did mountaineering after that
No, sir.
experience, you stopped.
I went for walks a lot, but never,
Yeah.
never over 3,000 feet above.
See, we look at these things and we think, I wonder what it'd be like to climb that mountain. I was away 3 weeks ago with some family, and we did a 3 or 4 kilometer hike. It wasn't so bad, but it was like that.
Oh.
And you get to the top and you think, this is magnificent. And you want to stay there and you think, I could probably survive overnight here, maybe even a couple of nights. But when you are, it's a lot harder than that.
Yeah, and I made a mistake. I tried to give my children this experience. They were quite young, I think 6, 11, and 16.
Yeah,
I took them to Clarence,
yeah.
and we climbed. There was a small chain ladder thing there. My wife was the most compromised. She was terrified. She was having flashbacks of her mountain climbing days in her youth. But my young kids, man, they were just in there. I thought maybe I need to climb above my boy. So
Yeah.
like put him like in my kangaroo pouch.
Yes.
And we climbed together like this. He said, no, Dad, I can do
Fine.
this. Let's go. And when I got there, I was like, I'm so pleased you're having this experience to look what God has made
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
You know, when I look down from mountains, lofty grandeur, and see the works thy hand has made, I thought, like,
Right.
my children have had this experience, and I'm not going to do it again because it'll be overkill to try and turn my children into mini-me's. But yeah, we were up there, and I thought we could do this forever. It's a great thing. But I was very happy to get back to Johannesburg, my plot in Midrand, and do gardening.
All right, so Masi says, what a morbid show. Not a great start to Monday. Well, Kurt's telling us the story that's in his books. We'll sugarcoat that for you. Everything's fine. Everything's beautiful. Everyone is happy. It was all magnificent.
Yeah.
Maybe Cape Town has another one. I'm doing Sani Pass Walk in August for a charity. 18 kilometers up and down, says Durban Dope. That's cool. And I've climbed Sentinel Peak as well. There's someone who's done that. Okay, so I want to get to the video that I was telling you about just now, because this is apparently it's the Mexican Navy, a Mexican Navy ship that struck Brooklyn Bridge. Take a look at this. Flex, have you got that clip for us? Look at this.
There's people up there. What just happened? It's crashing. That had to be on purpose. Yo, did you see the person just fall all the way down? Holy fuck. Whoa.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty disturbing.
Well,
You see those people hanging from the rigging?
Charlie Chaplin, I think, said something like this. Tragedy, what we just watched, and comedy are two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And he said like this. If you the guy slipping on the banana, because that was one of his tricks, if you the guy slipping on the banana and falling on your ollie, then it's a tragedy for you.
But for everyone
The
else.
people watch a huge comedy. And we just watch these type of human experiences. You have to decide, am I going to laugh at this or am I going to be empathetic with this?
Oh,
Yeah.
burst into tears.
Yeah.
See those people in the rigging.
I saw
mean,
they were swinging like...
Yeah, there was one guy who got like thrown right off.
At first, I couldn't get the perspective of the size of the human being.
I know.
Until we just went a little closer, like, there's 7 people swinging like little fairy lights up there.
Well, let me ask you this, because one of the things you wanted to talk about this morning is how things have changed, and people have cameras on them all the time. And as someone who used to direct and produce shows and knew about cameras and medium close-ups and all the rest of it, now people are using them for recording. You can't do a thing in the world unless you expect to be caught on camera.
Correct. And forget about the creativity. These are all mik and druk.
Yeah.
Mik and druk meaning aim and point.
Yeah.
Capturing of these events. So you got to mind your P's and Q's because everybody's watching. The first thing they do is whip out their cameras and go like, I don't know if you remember seeing those videos where the police came to the window and said, I pay your salary, I'm paying your tax. Remember that one?
Yeah.
That whole thing was captured on film, on record. 50 years ago, 20 years ago, no such thing.
No.
No such thing. You never heard people tell, hey, I got pulled over in Warden or Villiers or somewhere
Yeah.
along the way, and that policeman charged me, blah, 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 and I got a fine, blah, blah, blah. This one's saying, look,
Yeah, here
this
it is.
happened.
Right.
And we got to become conscious of this in the world. Media is now in the hands of the people, the global people.
It worries me. It bothers me to some degree that you walk around in some places and you don't know, but they've got CCTV cameras everywhere, shops. Not because you're worried about being caught stealing, but you worry about how, if you have a conversation with somebody in the store, someone could be listening into that. A friend of
Definitely.
yours, a
Definitely.
family member.
Definitely.
I think there's a fine line. Like I often think, oh well, if they had to get hold of everything I've ever said and done, there's probably going to be a bit of embarrassment. But it's not like I'm going to be jailable for that stuff, right?
Correct.
And then you worry about how. No, but hang on. What if I'm having a private conversation with my sister, for example, about my brother, and suddenly that gets grabbed on camera and it causes just unbelievable pain in the family. You need to think and know you're in private sometimes in order to have the real conversation.
Correct. So privacy has become the victim of advanced technology, basically.
Yeah.
We're using all this technology to invade what was once personal spaces. I'll give you a good example. In Cape Town, there's a camera that can see for hundreds of miles into the ocean, and they say it's in case someone is drowning, right? We can see them in the back line from this camera. I don't know if it's in a satellite up there, but it's somewhere high up. I think it's a satellite camera.
Really?
Yeah, you can't see if you look up. And then we see this person drowning, and then we'll send a rescue team, because from the ocean at eye line level, you won't see it. Fair enough, except that's the good side of it. The evil side of it is you are invading the beachgoer's privacy.
Yeah.
Because you can watch somebody who came to the beach to be private, to be alone, to chill, to put on their bather, to relax, and you there manipulating
Pervert.
those. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir. Thank you. It ties in with everything we've been saying in our conversation this morning. So we have to accept that privacy has been invaded by technology to the extent that you are no longer unrecorded. Big Brother, George Orwell said, Big Brother's watching you. He didn't know we were going to carry Big Brother's cameras for him.
Yeah, we're doing the dirty work.
We're doing the dirty work.
You're right. Two of the people up at the mast died when they fell, apparently,
Oh,
says
my
Wolf Printing.
goodness.
There wasn't even a close hit. This must have been obvious. I think some people actually died on that ship. Yeah, and this was under the famous Brooklyn Bridge. You would think that ships, particularly if it's a military naval vessel, or it belongs to the Mexican Navy, you would know your clearance.
Absolutely. I have no knowledge of that sort of, those guidelines. But I do acknowledge that, let's call them maritime accidents, do happen.
Yeah.
You know, let's speculate a little bit on what we've been talking about. Imagine if their computers were hacked and they were getting readouts that the clearance
Maybe.
is cool.
Yeah, maybe, hey?
Who would want to do that? We'll never know. This is where conspiracy theory becomes like an answer or. But until such time as we can prove that a bad call was made by the technology, that ship's got huge technology. Let's just be clear. It's not like an old rowboat with some
No,
sails.
for sure.
Yeah, it's got computers to the nines there. So something went wrong in the predicted readings. Like weather, we predict weather's going to do this and then it does that. I think I would like to think that that's probably what happened there. They had some computer failure.
Well, I think it's horrible that two people
Terrible.
died.
It's
That
terrible.
suddenly changes the tone of it
terrible.
as well.
Yeah.
The poor one who's catching an innocent pomp on the beach, says Viasin. Yeah. They're people, and then that satellite's watching them.
Say no more.
Yeah. But I mean, in Cape Town, people go to the beach sometimes early in the morning or whatever.
Yeah, I do it for
And they
walks.
exercise
That's
over
me.
there. And now suddenly you've got someone
Bruh.
up there watching you.
I started surfing at 58, bro.
Really?
Yeah, well,
You're
48.
such
big
a
bro.
Cape Townian, eh?
Yes, to surfing 48, bro. But I've
Do you
given
put on a wetsuit and everything?
Yeah, the
'Cause
whole
it's
9 yards.
freezing.
Yeah, hoodie and booties and everything. But I gave up now because it's become so popular with young people that my local track, Muizenberg's become dangerous for bather accidents with surfboards.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and surfboard accidents with surfboards because there's always more learners because it's a gentle wave. It's 3 foot
Sure.
at best. and it's consistent and gentle.
So you've stopped.
I've stopped. I now bodyboard in the foam out of the strike zone.
Okay.
You know, just to keep the metabolism going.
Yeah, but you look pretty fit.
I used to be. I was a very competitive dude. I started smoking late in life and drinking late in life, and I stopped smoking and stopped drinking early in life. So I had a good childhood where I played soccer, swimming,
Yeah.
up to university. Then university happened like sex and drugs and rock and roll.
Sure.
And then maybe 10 years or so, I reckon, hey, wait, this is bad. And just come back to how I used to be.
Tell me, your 60s, was that scary or was that exciting?
I never noticed it happen because I started surfing at 48 and I surfed for like almost 10 years consistently. So when the 60s arrived, I didn't feel like I'd crossed anything. So I describe myself thus: an angry 17-year-old senior delinquent.
Oh, that's
So
funny.
I didn't see the 60s come. There was nothing to mark it to say, you're a Bali now.
Yeah. I think this is probably also a good question. Someone wants to know here. Privacy. You know, it's a very valuable thing. And I've said for the longest time, people who listen to the show often will probably quote me on this, or at least know that I said it a long time ago. It will become the most valuable currency of all.
Correct.
The more of your life, the more of your thoughts, the more of your the access people might have to you, that is private, the more valuable you will be.
100%.
It'll count more than money. It'll count more than anything else.
100% correct. And let's look at the people who can afford privacy. A Persian prince with unlimited zeros behind his name. His wife wanted, it's an Islamic, a Muslim
Sure.
culture where women are required to cover up. His wife wanted to sunbathe in a bikini. Dude bought an island.
You can afford, if you can afford that kind of privacy, that's
So
good.
that's
a
the
good
one.
life.
That's the one extreme. The other extreme is you murder the person so you can be alone because you're poor and you don't have options. So you use crime to try and protect your privacy.
Yeah.
But you're right. It will become the most valuable commodity. Is can I just please have a space to be myself?
Absolutely.
Just quickly, imagine masturbation. It's a normal thing. Everybody does it. What you're saying and what I'm saying is down the road, people are going to put these things on TV, how they recorded their own masturbation.
They already are. They're
Thank you,
doing
sir.
it. There are people all over the world who are doing things like these OnlyFans or whatever else, where they young people who just want some money. Basically, they're solving a short-term problem with a long-term
And
debt.
selling their privacy.
Because that long-term debt's going to be there forever.
You got it, man.
And it's like, do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do, especially if you're not related to me or you're not a friend of mine. I'll say, go ahead, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But my God, you have to deal with that. One day, that'll pitch up again, and you'll go, oof, I can't believe I did that.
Correct. They come around to collect.
Yeah. And for money. Money drives so many bad decisions.
Yeah. So let's just try and protect our privacy to the best of our ability. So when I write these books, I have to find a balance between that private autobiographical line and the fictional line that people want the juice. Because, your autobiography is boring because everybody has one, And yes, they'll compare. But when you start adding a bigger, let's call it
Universe.
Right.
You create a
Then people
universe
start
around it.
feeling attracted into it.
Yeah.
And the victory happens when they see themselves in your work. They go,
Yeah.
this is my story too.
Well, there's an interesting thing someone told me once about how when you're telling a story or when you're on the radio or on the TV or wherever and you're busy explaining something to someone and you're trying to make it compelling and you're allowed to be personal but never private.
Embellish, yes, correct.
So I could say to you, it felt like this when someone said something that really hurt me or whatever, and I can describe it, and it's a personal story. But it would be wrong for me to say, this is the girl I was with on Thursday last week at this time, and here's her name.
And make comments
'Cause that's
about her
private.
vagina in public.
Yeah, correct, like MacG did.
Please, Lord.
Yeah,
forgive
because
us.
that's private. You shouldn't be doing that.
Correct.
And it's always good to be personal so that you can get into that, what you call the juice.
Yeah.
but then you don't want to be private.
So let me tell you about. Sorry,
It's like those people who talk ill of their ex-girlfriends or whatever. I just have no respect for them.
Correct.
You can't do that.
Judgmental.
Well, it's worse than that because you were, for a while, that person was hugely important in your life. And for a while, you were massively important in their life. And now, with the benefit of like a couple of months of hindsight, you think it's okay to just be cruel.
Hatchet job, yeah.
And to say that they're the worst person in the world. I don't believe
And here's
you.
a good example. We've been talking about mountains as part of the story. Immediately triggered people. They started to relate to the story with their own personal experiences.
Sure,
That's
of
the
course.
trick of creating great entertainment, which you've done here. You've made people hook into the subject matter and share.
Yeah.
So, go.
Sorry, no, I'm just looking here. Bitcoin But says, Mummy, my friends in the rugby team showed me a video of you doing some stuff to yourself. That's AI, right?
There's another left field challenge coming to us.
exactly.
But fortunately, it's at a stage where we can still recognize that it's AI. Maybe a time will come when we don't.
So this mountain thing you were saying is a metaphor, right, for so
Correct.
many things.
Correct. So let's just talk about the theme of death runs through all these novels.
Okay.
Because death is a part of life. We only want to accept life. We're always shunning away from death.
And you saw even one of the comments was,
Morbid.
This is morbid for a Monday.
So,
hey, you've got to be
You mean it's okay for a Sunday?
No, but you've got to be comfortable with talking about death just like you are with life.
For one simple reason that it's coming. It's on your script. Page number last is you gon' die.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're on page 12, 20, 2000,
You go die.
yeah, enjoy the fact that you gon' die because you're still alive. So the metaphor of a mountain is exactly what young people feel when they need to achieve. They feel like they're climbing a mountain. I was just fortunate to have a physical experience.
Yeah.
And then fortunate to have the training and the education thereafter to convert this into a metaphor.
Here's a question then about climbing mountains, and if you can remember and cast your mind back to that time, what feels better, the doing or the achieving? Like, is it climbing up that mountain, hard as it is, that feels rewarding and purposeful and important and empowering, or is it once you get to the top?
So this is the discussion about the destination and the journey, which is more important.
Yes, that's why I'm asking.
So we were trained from day one on this motto: swaar kry, klaar kry, lekker kry.
Okay.
And we bought into that. So we were looking forward to that lekker kry.
So suffering and difficulty.
Swaar kry, suffer,
Right.
get done with that, and feel good.
Okay.
So when we were doing 10 push-ups, we were going to have to do 100 before we were ready. 10 push-ups, swaar kry, klaar kry, lekker kry. And we inculcated this value. So in answer to, is it the destination or the journey, I'm saying there's a third option because life is never either or. It can also be both and. So I'm saying it's both the journey and the destination. Just hang on to every moment in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's something beautiful about being able to do those things. And, you don't have to have lots of money or
Correct.
be a hugely important person
Correct.
to climb a mountain. Anyone can do it. You don't do it on your own, and you don't do it with no
and you
training.
can't just decide to go for it.
No, sure, but there's no equipment, and you just need a good pair of shoes, some warm
Couple of
clothes,
supplies.
yeah, some supplies in your backpack, and you can go and do this.
There you go.
And every little mountain you conquer, metaphorically, is some part of your life that you're dealing with.
So let's extend this metaphor to the second book called The Palace of Broken Dreams.
Okay,
So a palace is a real tangible thing.
sure.
The story goes down in the 80s. Once again, I was there, so I'm writing from what I experienced. And it was the height of left field entertainment in Johannesburg. People came from all over the place to be at this club where gay, straight, black, white, tall, short, fat.
What was the
thin.
place called?
Number 58 in Pretoria Street.
Tell me about this. I know nothing about any of this.
The 80s. Well, just to put into perspective, the 70s we knew what happened. We were fighting with stones in the street, fighting the
Sure.
police. 90s we had an election. In the 80s we still haven't figured out what was going on. But I think it was the most dynamic decade in South African history because Plans were being made for the 1994 already, during the 80s, behind the scenes.
There was a lot in flux.
Yeah, but we were out there. Abigail Kubeka, Jennifer Ferguson, Solly Philander, Natalia de Russia, Sam Murray. This list goes on like this.
Right.
And Power.
These are luminary names. Okay.
Thank you. We're in this little dive that cooked like as if it was in New York or London or one of these fantasy places you always want to go to.
Right, like Studio 54.
Studio 54,
Okay.
same exact
and
concept.
What was going on there? Was it just a place of entertainment and people having fun and dancing and music?
All of that. There were
Right.
no boundaries.
Okay.
And it was so free that we would swap roles. One day you'd work the door, the next day you'd work the bar, you'd work the kitchen when the chef couldn't come because there was a strike down where he lives.
Did you guys all run it?
Yeah, the staff ran it.
That's an incredible. I don't know how I haven't heard of this before.
Well, don't worry about that, brother. You know, these are ever-changing times.
Okay.
Yeah,
it sounds amazing.
No, man, it was fantastic. But those dreams that the people had in there, a lot of them got broken. Because the industry, the national industry wasn't ready for what was coming out there. Some of the best cabaret singers, and they all came there, man. And it was fantastic. The people who came out of obscurity, got fame, and then disappeared again. It's those broken dreams that I want to revisit. But it's not just set in that place, because the Market Theatre is there, named as the Market Theatre. It was the most vibrant venue in the 80s, with this incredibly socially aware theatre, the only one in Johannesburg. So I decided, and there's a lot of what in our society, what I call degrees of blackness. Because in the 80s, if you were black 90%, it was frowned upon to have a partner who was black 51%.
You know, humans are so
ridiculous,
stupid,
right?
And, I mean, we used to have. I looked at this the other day because someone sent me a link, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" They used to have terminology for people who were 1/8 black.
Thank you.
1/4 black.
Thank you.
1/2 black.
Thank you.
I mean, this is the stuff
Ridiculous.
from the slave days, where if you bought a slave, they were more expensive depending on how
much
white or black
blood
they
had.
were.
Yeah. So in this venue, in this our equivalent of Studio 54, the number on the dress was 58. So there was a symbiosis there with 54, 58.
Sure.
In that place, all those boundaries disappeared.
Okay.
All those boundaries disappeared. Once you stepped in there,
Right.
dude, I even threw a undercover policeman out there. That I only realized the reason when I saw his badge and gun fall as he fell down the stairs. I was like, what have you done, little actor boy? So we abandoned all our prejudices inside there. And the conflicts we had were always only personal. We didn't put them into...
When last did you see Solly Philander?
in the flesh.
Yeah.
Shame, I'm sorry to tell the story because of Morbid Monday. Solly got sick and went to hospital just under a year ago. And because I go back to 1981 with Solly, in Afrikaans, he's my beste bra.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, we grew together up in our careers.
Such a talented guy, hey?
Hey, man. You're nailing it now.
What an incredibly and a good human being
ahead
too.
of his time.
Yeah.
Got into the broken dream mindset and wobbled. Now people are saying Solly's lost his mind. I don't think so. I think Solly's a genius, and I think he should be supported more often. So the last time I saw him, he was lying in a hospital. He had been taken from left field by a kidney failure. And he's recovered, and he's back in there, and I love him.
Okay, well, give him my love too. I think he's terrific.
Yeah, I must try and find him.
What a special man.
The other night, I bumped into his ex-wife, Tony.
Uh-huh.
And we all spoke, because that's where they met. They met in this number 58.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
This place sounds like it was unreal.
You know what? It was the answer to all of South Africa's problems if you were bothered to analyze what was going on there. I mean, this is Solly's ex-wife, Tony. She of Italian descent, right, from the East Rand. And when they met, they were just like, boom, on. And they had kids and everything.
Yeah.
And I met her. She's fine. Yeah, she's still okay. Solly I haven't seen since Now, thank you for reminding me. I need to look him up.
Yeah, he's a special guy.
So that's the
Solly
Palace
lived
of...
in Woodstock, says Vyasan. The last time I saw him, he didn't look well. I hope he's doing better.
Yeah, no, he lost a lot of weight.
Hey, listen to this. Oxford Eye says, I waited the theatre restaurant at 58. I was sent to the bar next door often to get a bottle of whiskey. The bar was full of big men dressed in leathers and moustaches.
Pastanje, okay, I'm going to tell you what he's talking about there. 58 changed its name to Gotham City. It was sold. And that's where the leather and the moustaches came in.
All right.
When we were there, it was like, damn, this is the place to be.
All right.
And it got changed. Yeah.
So here's something else. I haven't seen too many people having fun these days. Attention seeking is a desperate full-time job. Well, I mean, that's going back to these influences. And
about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, the things that people will do for attention. You see them content creating. Right? They've put their camera up and they've set up a little scenario that they want to film now. But they hate it. They're not having fun.
And it's badly acted.
It's badly acted. So when you record a scene for a soap opera and people are really into it and they're enjoying it, there's nothing that beats that.
You know, Bertolt Brecht said...
If they're not, it's crap, right?
Correct. Bertolt Brecht, one of the great contemporary writers, said, when you get it right, it's like riding, this is the quote, riding the back of an eagle. That's how your performance should take you. The character must take the actor there.
Right.
Yeah.
No WhatsApp groups in those days, says Bebop Williams. You had to actually interact with people in person.
Thank you. And so any conflicts were resolved inside there. Ah, man, there were wonderful people. Graham Clark, Charles Cumman. These were all, and Graham is still iconic people. And you would talk face to face like this. I would do a show at the Market Theatre, catch a taxi on stage, catch a taxi at 10 o'clock to there, and wait tables. And Barry Ronga, who had just watched the show and writing the review, was sitting at the table. And I was like, you serving those tables there tonight? And there's Barry Ronga sitting. You can't hide.
Barry Ronga used to be very powerful in that world.
Yes, he was.
If he gave you a good review,
Yes, he was. And he was a good person. He tried his best to give support. Rayford Daniels, these were great journalists, theatre journalists. They were great. And they supported the people. They weren't like slating. And I think they created a tradition where still today there are journalists left who still give support. Like Robin Cohen, for example, in Cape Town, the Cape Robin. She's very supportive of anything that comes.
Do you go and watch theatre?
Occasionally. Because I'm not a night driver anymore.
Okay.
As you can see, I'm wearing glasses. so I'm not a night driver, but I do go when I can.
Okay.
And I've become a bit of a hermit. I can't do that.
Listen,
I can't do that. So how's it, darling?
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
Go and look at the influencers. Vitalik, who's now facing 30 years in the Philippines for being a nuisance, and Johnny Somali in South Korea for also being a nuisance. Yeah, because these people involve everyone else in their stupid content creation, right?
Ridiculous.
And another thing, people are complaining, like with WhatsApp and everything else, people always need to know where you are. I heard on Saturday, a friend of mine and his girlfriend have some app that she knows where he is all the time.
There you go. There's a privacy invasion
I
materializing.
think that sounds very dangerous to me.
Yeah, because...
Not because he's hiding things from her, but because you should never know everything all the time.
And you know what the answer...
What if he wants to go and surprise her by buying her flowers somewhere? And she's
Correct.
like, what were you doing there?
Correct. And the supporters of this tracking app say, well, if you've done nothing wrong, you've got nothing to hide.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I've got my privacy to protect.
Yeah, correct.
So what do you think?
Yeah. Wasn't there a Mexican content creature who got murdered on a live stream recently?
Oh, I don't know. That's out of my my lane. I don't know.
I don't know anything about that either, I'm afraid. And then people saying here, James Phillips and the cherry-faced lurchers.
Oh, wow.
Do you remember that?
Wow, yes. That was such a groove. It was like alternative white / Afrikaans
Was
rebellion.
the band?
I can't remember. I know I saw them every time I wanted to. There's a joint called Jemieson's in Commissioner Street.
Okay.
A long step.
Right.
Once you got there, you could see anything. I mean, Roger Lucy started a band called, I Ray Stadig and the Los Ballas Trios. Or some, no, Jean Parkering. Jean Parkering, like geen parkering.
You're right.
Jean and the Los Ballas Trios. And these were all sane, well-talented men who got together and took the mickey out of the status quo. And that's what the 80s was about. So the cherry-faced lurchers, and there was a whole string of them, of these Afrikaans resistant, yeah. It was
It's amazing. Do you get nostalgic when you think of things like this?
Sometimes. I must admit, I long for what I perceive to be the freedom of those times. Even within the worst decade, like the 80s, we took a lot of freedom and was, like the good doctor says, you push the boundaries. But we didn't go into that narcissistic, we don't care. You know, there was that danger and people got into self-abuse, taking drugs and wiping themselves out. But me, I just remember being free guy. I had offered to be in a band and I took it, a band called Isya, dudes from Bosmont. And they asked me to play percussion, so now I got arthritis. But I played and it was lovely for a year and a half. I was on stage acting. I was at 58, the singing waiter. When my tables had paid, I'd get up and do, don't blame it on the sunshine. Don't blame it on the... It was free, man. And I got that nostalgia.
Wow.
That's why I wrote The Palace of Broken Dreams, because of the nostalgia. To remember the good and the bad of that time and that place. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you can. You can take the good stuff out, right?
How do you mean?
No, I mean, you can take the good stuff out.
You can highlight the good
without
stuff.
just the pain.
Yes,
Because obviously you can never turn the clock back.
Yes.
And there are probably people that you miss. There are probably people you'll never see again.
Yes.
Who've fallen by the wayside. You're not even sure what's
Even
happened
died,
to them.
correct?
Yeah, you don't even know.
Yeah.
But a place like that, at that time, there's magic there.
I'm telling you, if we had something like that now, hey, it would make all of what we got look like child's play. Because we're in such a conflicting state as a society now, in so many silos. We need places where people come together and feel free. And not, that's a niche place. That's a niche place. We should have like 1,000 of those clubs around the country.
Yeah.
Where you can
I just don't think, I think the club era is done.
I used the wrong word, club. The platform for live performance.
No, sure, I agree.
F&B, food and beverage, and so forth.
Why is this guy wearing a coat indoors? Well, because it's freezing in our studio, Gillian. That's why. Gillian says, great guest, Gareth. Okay, very good. Wasn't Gillian. Sorry, it was Yaya.
Yeah.
23-year-old Mexican social media influencer was shot dead while live streaming on TikTok. His name was Valeria Marquez.
Cool.
Okay, very good. The 80s was fantastic because we know now that freedom that we took back then was worth more than the freedom they handed out to us in the 90s.
Thank you very much for nailing it.
It's my 40th birthday tomorrow, says Carl. Have a party with 100 of my closest friends and family on Saturday. It was a jol. Wish me happy, you losers.
Like a weekend.
Happy.
Thank you.
Very nice, Carl.
Thank you.
That's excellent. So 100 of his closest friends and family.
Good man.
You must have...
He's been working hard for the last 40 years.
What did you hire? Ellis Park? Yeah, it's puss cold there, says Bitcoin Butt in the studio. I had nipple stands for the whole show.
Let me just check if I...
All right, so you're doing the books. People can go and meet you at the theatre on the square.
Correct. Thursday noon.
4 books in a series. Are they all being released at the same time?
Same time. I thought I'd make a first because, you know, it's all been done before. But my motive was this. I don't want to let 5 years pass. When are you going to write the next book? What's the next book going to be about? Let me just sit down, take 2 years out and just do this. And I did it. I didn't want to write Lord of the Rings. Nobody can read Lord of the Rings.
How fat are these books?
It took me a year to read Lord of the Rings. And I said, I've got to read this again. So I start from the beginning. My books are like as thick as, let's say, the end of your digit of your finger.
Right.
Like between the knuckle and the end of your... 1 centimeter, 2
In other words,
centimeters.
you're not going to need an articulated crane to help you
No,
read
sir.
it.
You're going to fly through that thing in 2
That's
days.
good.
Some of them are a little bit dense, so you might have to go back and read. What's she saying here?
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you've written these books. It sounds to me like there's some real gold there.
I think so, man. You know, it's been hard earned.
Yeah.
I didn't just pull out the sky. No AI in there. You know, you can write a book in AI in 2 minutes.
Doesn't do that. There's no. The AI. You can use AI to retro engineer something, and figure out that it was AI in the first place.
You know what I'm using AI for? To make short videos to promote the books.
Yeah, there we go.
So there's no dialogue. It's just mood. I call it a book mood board. It's just feelings, how the book feels.
You said in your notes that I saw for the show that you think the internet may have killed creativity.
Yeah, I'm stealing that, hey? This is a dude from Pink Floyd. He made this quote. He said, I can't remember his name now, but he said about 5 to 10 years ago, he thought that the internet would suck all the creativity out of the world. And his reference probably as a 70-year-old at the time that he said this, because the band's not from yesterday, he was looking at their journey as young, angry young men, becoming rock musos and then refining and becoming and having good statements to make, being creative.
Sure.
Let's just give Pink Floyd that kudos, right? So in his reference, and I haven't lived long enough to know that this is true. So at that time. So I subscribed to that and I said, yes, I now agree that he was right, that the internet has already started sucking creativity out of the world because everybody can do anything for the internet. A radio quiz show is no longer about what you know. It's about how fast can you hit the buttons.
Yeah, correct.
So what's creative about there? Listen, if you need finger exercise, get a Rubik's Cube and save yourself the exposure to a screen.
I could not agree more.
You know, so that's
I do think there are possibly ways that it's made us more creative. I think that there are more creative people doing more stuff, sharing it online. That's good.
100%.
That's not a bad thing.
Those are initially creative people.
It's not a zero-sum game. We're not going to end up with nothing, and we're not going to end up with everything.
Correct. 100% correct. So the people who are inherently creative, and for me, they are usually misunderstood because, I got a little anecdote. You know, today the doctors all wash their hands.
Yeah.
And oops, sorry. Sorry.
No.
Too active with these coats in the cold studio. This guy, he's a Hungarian doctor. He saw the correlation between babies dying in birth and the doctors working on the corpses. And he figured they're transporting germs from there to there. The medical fraternity wrote him off as a madman. And today, long after his death, it's proved the truth. That's correct. It's a protocol. So this is how the creative people can get more creative. Instead, this man was made to be an outcast. But the creativity to make a correlation between germs on a dead body and giving these germs to a new body, those people need to be assisted by AI with everything at their disposal to be able to make these human advances.
I think we're entering a very exciting time.
Yes, indeed.
Because machines are going to start thinking faster than we can.
Yes.
And solving logical and rational problems for us. And I think there's going to be more honesty and more truth available than ever before. Because it's going to be much harder to use language to manipulate.
Correct.
But creativity is going to still be a human concern, largely. There'll be things that you can do faster and better and much more cheaply. But there will be that out of left field idea that only a human can come up with.
Look, as much as I dislike contact sport for reasons of injury to the human body, I was sold on Cassius Clay into Muhammad Ali to watch this man dance in the ring. 2 weeks ago, I watched a dude boxing with a robot.
Yeah?
It looked exactly the same. All we needed was a skin on this, because they showed all the metal spine and the wires and everything. And that robot was
Those things can move, huh?
In there, man, in there.
So the company, Boston Dynamics, that do a lot of these robots, I think they've just been acquired by Google.
Okay.
So you can imagine how they'll input stuff into each other now with Google and with Boston Dynamics. It's going to be phenomenal.
This is why we got to stand naked in front of the mirror occasionally and go, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Exactly.
Can I see you nicely?
100% right. Well, listen, it's a great pleasure to meet you.
Cool runnings.
And to actually have a conversation that I feel has been long overdue. There's lots of people commenting in the story. What a great guest you've been in the comment section. And thank you. I mean, it's lovely to meet you. And thank you for being in Joburg to launch your books.
It's a pleasure, my brother.
Yeah,
and likewise,
best of luck.
it's a pleasure to meet you. I've been watching you since early days.
Well, it's lovely to actually spend some time with you.
Thank you.
Today.
Thank you.
Parallel Parking says, Where is the art on the street when the artist is watching TikTok? It's sad. Remember when art was a tangible product that you could put on display?
Yes, sir.
Well, there's still people doing it, like our guest here today, Kurt Egelhof. Pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. We will be back on Wednesday morning, bright and early. We've got a hell of a week of shows for you, so don't go anywhere. And check out all the other shows on The Real Network, including Let's Talk Man, On the Bounce, and The Shady Podcast, among others. Stick around. We'll see you later.
Hej, jänta mi.
Hej.
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 Så fin jente du er.
Tusen takk.
Du er så vakker, du. Ja, du er så vakker. Får jeg en suss? Får jeg en suss? Gi meg en suss. Skal vi gå ut en tur og kose oss? Du og jeg?
Nå.
Vil du være på tur? Skal vi tisse? Skal vi gå og tisse litt sammen?